delivered his first primetime address, and as almost everyone expected, including the Biden-loving mainstream media, he said half-truths and flat-out lies. Even CNN wrote an article highlighting the inaccuracies of the address. And as I'll show you, the mass vaccination agenda was center stage. He essentially said that the end of the pandemic could be threatened by those who want to avoid getting an experimental COVID vaccine. We're going to cover all that and more in this video. Before we do, head on over to stillnessinthestorm.com/donate to support this channel. We have our new Patriot-friendly payment service that allows you to bypass PayPal and send us your support in the form of one-time or monthly donations. You can also become a member of the Stillness in the Storm Subscribe Star for exclusive perks and benefits. Now, it should be noted that Biden, the man who allegedly won the 2020 election with the most votes in U.S. history, over 85 million, earned yet again a huge number of downvotes. Yikes. And supposedly this guy is the most popular president in history? They must really think we're gullible. First on our list of Biden blunders was his jab against President Trump when he said,
"A year ago, we were hit with a virus that was met with silence and spread unchecked. Denials for days, weeks, then months."
Here, Biden's statement is misleading. What really happened was Trump took the coronavirus very seriously, doing so despite the large number of so-called experts who thought his response was racist and over the top. Of course, as all of you likely remember, the same people who thought Trump was overreaching in the early days of the coronavirus pandemic jumped on the bandwagon of saying that Trump mishandled the response only months later. These people can't get their story right.
I've told you before, I carry a card in my pocket with the number of Americans who have died from COVID to date. It's on the back of my schedule. As of now, total deaths in America, 527,726. That's more deaths than in World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War, and 9/11 combined.
According to the Department of Veteran Affairs, a total of 392,393 Americans died in combat during those three wars. Now, if we add the 2,977 deaths during 9/11, that places the total at 395,370. Now, if we factor in deaths that occurred in service but outside of combat, the total from World War I, World War II, and Vietnam rises to more than 610,000 deaths. Here, he missed the mark by over 80,000 deaths. It's obviously a ploy to sensationalize the COVID pandemic in an effort to associate it with three extremely serious and impactful historic events. These wars played a major role in shaping the lives of millions of Americans, specifically traumas suffered, not only by soldiers that fought in these wars, but the general population who had to experience it with them. By contrast, the COVID pandemic, despite the death toll, is barely worse than a bad season of the flu. What makes the pandemic tragic is not necessarily the death count, but the globalists who destroyed thousands of businesses, millions of lives of families, communities, and people in unwarranted and completely irrational lockdowns.
2 months ago, this country didn't have nearly enough vaccine supply to vaccinate all or ever near all of the American public.
By now, all of you know it was really the Trump administration that ordered at least 100 million vaccines that were expected to be available on January 31st of this year. Typical of radical leftists like Biden and his ilk, they want to take credit for Trump's successes and blame him for their failures. Before we continue, let's talk about defending yourself against cell phone and Wi-Fi radiation. A January 2020 article entitled "Your Mobile Phone Can Trigger Migraines" shows that wireless devices, quote, can cause increased headaches in adults, teenagers, and young children, which means that limiting your mobile phone use can be beneficial at any age. Now, young children are especially vulnerable to the effects of this toxic radiation. That's why you should buy a protection device by EMF Harmonized. Using Tesla Science technology, you can safeguard yourself and your children against the harmful radiation. Go to stillnessinthestorm.com/EMF Harmonized and buy your protection today. Now let's continue. Biden's address spent most of the time pushing vaccines as a solution to a so-called pandemic with a 99% survival rate.
To make all adults, people 18 and over, eligible to be vaccinated no later than May 1. And we're mobilizing thousands of vaccinators to put the vaccine in one's arm. We've made it possible for you to get a vaccine at nearly any one of 10,000 pharmacies across the country, to set up and support nearly 600 federally supported vaccination centers that administers hundreds of thousands of shots per day. We've been sending vaccines to hundreds of community health centers all across America located in underserved areas. And we've been deploying, and we will deploy more mobile vehicles and pop-up clinics to meet you where you live, so those who are least able to get the vaccine are able to get it. And the more people are fully vaccinated, the CD will continue to provide additional guidance on what you can do in the workplace, places of worship with your friends, as well as travel. I said I intended to get 100 million shots in people's arms in my first 100 days in office, because we've actually on track to reach this goal of 100 million shots in arms on my 60th day in office. All adult Americans will be eligible to get a vaccine no later than May 1. Every adult will be eligible to get their shot. New tools to make it easier for you to find the vaccine and where to get the shot, including a new website that will help you first find the place to get vaccinated and the one nearest you. And my announcement last month of a plan to vaccinate teachers and school staff. We will issue further guidance on what you can and cannot do once fully vaccinated, to lessen the confusion, to keep people safe, and encourage more people to get vaccinated. That's not hyperbole. I need you. I need you to get vaccinated when it's your turn and when you can find an opportunity. And to help your family, your friends, your neighbors get vaccinated as well. Listen to Dr. Fauci. He's assured us the vaccines are safe. I know they're safe. That's why we got the vaccine publicly in front of cameras, so for the world to see, so you can see us do it. Talk to your family, friends, your neighbors, the people you know best who've gotten the vaccine. We need everyone to get vaccinated. The development, manufacture, and distribution of vaccines in record time is a true miracle of science. If we all do our part, this country will be vaccinated soon.
The globalists have been pushing mass vaccination as a key feature in their war against freedom and prosperity for a long time. If you've been paying attention, then you know that tens of thousands of people have suffered adverse reactions to the vaccine, and over 1,000 paid the ultimate price, the loss of their lives.
Vaccines are safe. They underwent rigorous scientific review. I know they're safe. Vice President Harris and I know they're safe.
As of March 12th, according to the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, a U.S. government-funded database that tracks injuries and death caused by vaccines, 1,524 people have died and over 31,000 people have suffered injury following injections of the experimental COVID mRNA vaccine by Pfizer and Moderna. Listening to Biden's speech was like listening to a big pharma infomercial. And I was waiting for him to give a shout out to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or to tell us how excited he is about vaccine passports. In a chilling statement, he indirectly suggests that he intends on limiting our freedoms based on whether or not we've been vaccinated.
In the coming weeks, we will issue further guidance on what you can and cannot do once fully vaccinated. I need you to get vaccinated when it's your turn and when you can find an opportunity. If we all do our part, this country will be vaccinated soon. Our economy will be on the mend. Our kids will be back in school.
He's not only saying everyone needs to get vaccinated, but that we also have to, in effect, become salesmen for Big Pharma.
That's why we got the vaccine publicly, in front of cameras, so for the world to see, so you could see us do it.
If he asks me, I'm really questioning whether or not he actually got that vaccine. Just my opinion.
And to help your family, your friends, your neighbors get vaccinated as well.
If you're reading it between the lines, he's saying that to save America and to end the pandemic, which also means ending the lockdowns, we need to get vaccinated. And if you don't get vaccinated, you'll be holding back the recovery and prolonging the pandemic response. In essence, he's making everyone who wants to avoid the shot an enemy of the people and an obstacle to ending the lockdowns. Now, I'm going to predict right now that we'll start to hear things like, people who refuse to get the vaccine are essentially murdering people with COVID-19. The usual fear-mongering against people who don't want to get injected with experimental drugs and known toxic chemicals that cause a lot of problems. This is yet another confirmation of the fact Biden is a wholly owned subsidiary of the globalists and their Great Reset Big Pharma as a solution for everything agenda. Here, Biden suggests that the virus could get worse.
This fight is far from over, as I told the woman in Pennsylvania. The scientists have made clear that things may get worse again as new variants of the virus spread. Because if we don't stay vigilant and the conditions change, then we may have to reinstate restrictions to get back on track.
We can translate that to mean lockdowns are likely here to stay with Biden at the helm. And we can expect new strains to come out requiring more vaccines and more economic hardship. Does it ever end? The speech was so hard to watch for a lot of reasons. But what it showed us was how desperate Biden and the globalists are, using fear-mongering, distortion of facts, and emotional pandering to encourage people to go along with the deep state agenda. As we've discussed in previous videos, the harder the deep state pushes, the more patriots they create. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please like and share this video. And until next time, this is Justin signing